Welcome back to Pokemon Spitballin cards. In this video, it's for Pokemon collectors talking all about Pokemon cards. So this is not Jeff and Chris's favorite episode. Would you guys agree with that statement?
Yeah, I'm just here. I'm just here for occasional commentary.
I'm learning. I'm learning.
But before you click off, don't click off. This is going to tie into sports cards, talking about the market in general. So this will be relevant to you in regards to sealed wax as well as an overall potential bubble. So that's what we're going to talk about in this video. In this video, you have me, Scott, we have Chris, we have Jeff, and we have Phil. It is unfortunate Ty is not here. He's recently really getting into Pokemon. He has how many kids? 4?
At least.
5? And they like Pokemon cards, I think. So I think he's actually gotten pretty knowledgeable working at Cards HQ as well. But for those that don't know, Pokemon cards have just exploded. And it's not just me saying that. There are dollar figures behind it. A set called Surging Sparks was hyped up and released, and it's already more than doubled the value of the box. That usually does not happen that quickly. You know, MSRP is like $100 or so. It's selling at $230 right now. And then we have Prismatic Evolutions coming out, which is the newest hot set focused on everyone's favorite Pokemon Eevee. And that product for an ETB, which is kind of like a blaster box or like a mega box, you could say, for a sports card comparison, goes for $60 at retail, typically $50 to $60. That box is MSR, like the actual pre-sale pricing is like $150. That is unheard of. That's unheard of. Like, it's not normal for modern cards. And so we're seeing everything across the board move up. We're seeing singles move up. We're seeing the Moonbreon Umbreon card go crazy. What's our thoughts? Phil, I think this might be you and me going back and forth for a second, but what are your thoughts on this whole situation?
It's borderline euphoria at this point. And I know you alluded to the word bubble. I don't know if we're in a bubble. It's hard to say. It's hard to say how long this is going to go on for. I think Pokemon's done a really good job building out their franchise and with their cards printing to demand. Even in some years where it seemed like they printed too much, like 2021, 2022. Chris, there were a lot of booster boxes that were selling for like, I don't know, $100 on release, and they fell to like the $70 range. And now those same booster boxes are $200 or $300 plus. So
Chilling Reign's a good example. Rudy from Alpha Investments was all over that thing.
Yeah, he's very rarely wrong. So good guy to listen to if you're interested in this stuff. So even though Pokemon prints about 14 billion cards in a year, which sounds crazy, I mean, apparently it's not enough because the supply gets gobbled up. Rip and ship is something that started over the last few years and has just heated up. I think Whatnot is coming to Australia. This is truly a global market. You know, we talk about sports cards, and Otani has somewhat of a global market.
And basketball cards, we talk about global market.
Yeah, Australia a little bit, Europe a little bit. But this is truly global. I was just listening to a streamer, Ketchum Collectibles. He's got a business. He's got a YouTube channel and everything. And he was talking about how he plans, him and his business plan to open 100,000 packs just this year. Mm-hmm. So there's just constantly demand. I mean, these streamers are going live for like 6-7 hours. What you notice is if you follow any of the Pokemon influencers, they're all saying that this is a working formula, not just the singles going up in value, but a lot of people are buying sealed to hold. And it's working because it's going up. So a lot of people have all these unrealized gains. There's more utility for Pokemon. People play the game. There's more collectors. Kids are into it. So this is more long lasting. It's also less about the lottery ticket. We've talked about this in a recent episode. Yes, there are hits. And we can show some of the pop reports for these cards. It's pretty crazy. You've got cards with a 14,000 pop, the Umbreon that Scott was talking about, from an ultra modern product, and the PSA 10s are selling for $2,000-$3,000. Like, imagine the bat.
It feels like the Trout rookie, but way more of them are out there.
The
like
bat up Acuna US 250 during the pandemic was sitting at about 10 to 15,000 in a PSA 10, and that was selling for like, I don't know, like $250, $300. Imagine like 10 times that. And those prices crashed, right?
Can we talk about why that might be happening real quick, though? Because the difference between sports cards and Pokemon cards is there's more utility literally in Pokemon cards because you can play a game. That's the first part. Very obvious. Most people aren't doing that right now. They are buying it for one of two things: pure speculation investment, you know, or they like the art of the card. So it's like an actual art piece versus, you know, Jeff and Chris, you guys love art. You love art on your cards. You love that aspect, right? Let me show you the Umbreon real quick. and give you an idea of what this looks like. It's a really cool card. It literally is kind of like art in a way. Here's one in Japanese, but the Japanese is still popular for Pokemon cards. But regardless, here is what the card looks like, right? So it has this going for it. It looks cool. People love it. And so that's a big part for Pokemon versus sports cards. But
I mean, that image is cool, but it could just as easily be like the image you would see on a wrapper for like a piece of candy in Japan. Like, I don't know what any of that means.
Yeah, and that's fair. But did you grow up playing Pokemon?
I did not. No.
Did you grow up knowing? Like, it's like there's my generation. I just turned 30 this last week, and because I'm 30 years old now, I grew up born 95. Pokemon came to the United States in like 1999 for cards, and then I played all the video games my entire life. I still play them, and because of that, like I'm nostalgic, and so they're these cool art pieces with the nostalgia. That's why I think that's a big part.
Pokemon is kind of interesting, and I actually just opened. I bought a lot of sealed wax to try to get in front of this FOMO bus. Hopefully, not the last guy on the bus before it leaves the station. But I was able to pull this Mew card, which I guess is like kind of a big deal, even though it's $15. I'm trying to share this with my daughter, who didn't grow up with this nostalgia. She's 4 years old, right? But there is something stickier or more enticing, more appealing about opening up Pokemon cards. Like, you're not just sifting through a bunch of base cards that are going in the trash, right? Like Kyle Funkhauser, Tyler Soderstrom, or Nick Soderstrom was his name. Like, there's certain cards that are just, they don't have any utility. They don't have any value. They just go in the trash if you're smart, or you could put them in a binder. With Pokemon, like, everybody has like a different character they're attached to, a different story for why. If you ask somebody who's the best Pokemon, depends on the set, depends on what. It's not just Charizard. There's Pikachu. There's Gengar is really popular.
The evolutions are popular.
Yeah. There's something cool about the packs. And I mean, up till the last 3 months, they were a lot cheaper to open too. You could get really good packs from good sets and open them that were like, $5-6 a piece. Now they're probably pushing like 9, 10, 11 for some of the better product.
There's no equivalent to the Aqua Lava Lamp Ray Wave Refractor Sticker Auto Tyler Soderstrom that Jeff and I pulled.
No parallels. They just have like variations and cool art pieces. There is no numbered cards as well. So, I mean, when I say parallels, there are short prints, technically. You would love Pokemon because they have the alternate arts, which is the regular card, but a different art, right? Like,
you got to lead with this, Scott. That's how you get Jeff and I get our interest perked up.
And they're cool. Like, I can show you my eBay cart real quick if you want to see what these look like. And you guys don't know what Pokemon cards typically look like, so maybe that's a hard sell. But, like, the point of these now, these alternate arts in the new, and they're different eras. This is the Scarlet and Violet era. They have nice little art pieces of the Pokemon like in the real world, right? So here is let's scroll down. I don't want to say the name because you'll make fun of it, but a Fuecoco. Here's him shopping with his Pokemon trainer in a supermarket, eating an apple because that's kind of what he does. Here's a Craydon in the jungle because that's where he was at, right? Here's a Zorora sleeping in Japan somewhere. But like the point, here's a cool Dusclops actually. It's like these are basically short prints. And image variations, but this is one where he's like stalking somebody in a neighborhood area. Like, they're just more unique, but they do have short prints essentially. No numbered cards. They do have chase hits that are very rare, one in like 200, 300, 400 packs, that type of thing. So
I do have to say that I watched Neo's video about this, who's on top of all Pokemon info as it comes up, and he's talked about being a self-professed sealed Pokemon investor rather than a collector, but he did talk about how there are so many collectors of the product. And the other thing he was talking about, which I guess you briefly alluded to, was the Rippin ship. That's the Pokemon version of breaking. So they don't have breaking as it were, but they do the Rippin ship, which sounds like something that I would have really liked for baseball cards, whereas it's all pack based, right? So you can go on to a breaker and say, oh, I want 5 packs of this and 4 packs of that, 10 packs of this, and they'll open it all and ship it to you, which seems really cool. Obviously, with the price of sports cards and baseball cards, you're really priced out of buying packs like that unless you're going to spend a lot of money. But it sounds like that is a really huge thing, and a great proportion of the cards are going to that.
Yeah, That's what it sounds like. So I mentioned the earlier the volumes from this specific rip and shipper or business that does rip and shipping. 100,000 packs, say on average, what is that, like 10 cards a pack? You divide that by 14 billion cards, it barely makes a dent.
Mm-hmm.
It's like 0.00007. And I guess to get the percent, you multiply that by 100 or whatever. But it's not. It's interesting, like how much of this stuff is owned by investors. How much of the most recent run up is because of investors? Because here's the thing, like when sports cards crashed in 2021, I think the peak for modern baseball was like March 2021. There weren't a lot of people holding wax. So yes, wax crashed too, but it was on a lag, like a 3-month lag, because it's tied to the value of what's inside. But if you add on this element of all these people holding it too, yes, it's healthier for growth of the sealed product. But if there is a crash, there's not going to be a 3-month lag. The crash is going to happen at the same time with the singles and with the sealed, maybe even more devastating for the sealed, depending on what the investors hold at that given time. Is kind of the way I see it. Like, I'm not saying a crash is going to happen. According to Rudy from Alpha Investments, he thinks that 2025 will be a strong year. At the end of the day, it's supply and demand at any given one time. And just because right now there's more demand than supply, it doesn't mean that in October, it doesn't mean that there won't be the issue. And then, there, of course, there's reprints, which tends not. So these products get reprinted a lot when they're in circulation. So it's thought that a lot of the Scarlet and Violet era sets will get reprints if the printers are able to do so. And not all sets get reprinted. And the level of the reprint could be a lot or could be a little. And if you can track price trends of these sets on TCG Player, and what you've seen over the last few years is that, yeah, there's like a small 10% dip, 5% dip, and then the supply just gets gobbled up. And then it just goes right back up. So whether that's people that are buying the product to open it, or again, more investors adding to their positions or starting their first positions, it's all really interesting to me. It definitely is. One thing, and I've been learning a lot about this over the last 2 weeks, so I apologize if I sound stupid, but booster boxes are like the blue chip investment configuration. There's all these other configurations. Like, we think it's confusing in baseball where we have like mega boxes, blasters, jumbos, hobby boxes. In Pokemon, there's like some stuff like binder collections. There's some stuff that comes with like action figures. They have to like figure out like what to sell at Walmart and Target versus what to sell to their distributors. Okay, so you got it there. Exactly. Yeah. See, look at Scott. And some of this is a pain in the ass to store for investors. So I don't know how they do it. Even the ETBs, which is like fewer cards than a booster. And it's like, yep, there's your booster bundle. So that's 6 packs right there.
And there's a bunch of different formats. I'll grab something bigger, but keep going, Phil.
So for the rip and shippers, they don't need to buy the booster boxes. I think right now a lot of them aren't. There's other ways they can get the packs for cheaper by buying booster bundles, what Scott showed, or buying cases of like sleeve packs or whatever, stuff like that. So right now it looks pretty foolproof, but the hotter things get, the more expensive these boxes get. A lot of these ultra modern booster boxes are up 100 to 250% over the last 12 months. The hotter things get, and the more euphoria there is, the more people maxing out their credit cards and taking on leverage to buy these booster boxes and also singles too, potentially the more devastating the crash will be, is something we also learned from sports cards.
Can I add? And it's interesting because we've never seen anything close to this in sports cards. Like, it sounds dramatic. Let me show you just like Google trends. Here is the history of Pokemon cards versus baseball cards. Pokemon cards search volume is higher than it's ever been right now, higher than COVID, higher than 2016 when the Pokemon Go stuff came out. And it has dwarfed any moment in time of baseball cards. And baseball cards is a generous search because people are saying baseball card shops near me, right? Like, you can argue that. It's a different animal. And there is so much more product out there because of it. But that might be okay because you have kids, you have teenagers, and you have adults all going after these cards, which is different than baseball cards. No kids care about baseball cards in comparison to the Pokemon cards. And we talked about all these different bundles and stuff, but they all have the same hit rates. And so the point of this is everything can essentially, besides Japanese product, we won't get into that. But for American, well, let's say English, not American cards, English cards, you can get best card out of this just as that weird big box I just showed you. which is a huge advantage for Pokemon cards. And it's just tough. It's tough. So, Chris, Jeff, what are you thinking about all this so far? But I just want to point out, we are in the hottest Pokemon search trends ever. I think that should correlate. Phil and I, well, I've always liked Pokemon cards, and I think Phil knows that. But that's a booster box, by the way.
This is a booster box. 36 packs, right?
And Phil spreads some misinformation I have to correct. There's some sets like this one and like Shrouded Fable and the Prismatic Evolutions. There's specialty sets. There's like a regular set and a specialty set. Those don't have booster boxes. So that's why those get so hot, like the ETBs we're seeing, because those ones only have ETBs. True. But typically what Phil is saying is absolutely right. We see that with Evolving Skies, which is $1,200 for a booster box right now, which is mind-blowing when the MSRP is essentially $80 for that box within the last 3 years.
So I guess my biggest question is, with the prices going up so exponentially now, how long before the cat scanning issue takes hold with Pokemon, with modern Pokemon?
It doesn't matter as much.
I agree. Well, there's 36 packs, and so if they're charging you on a per pack basis at $50, it's just impossible to scan and make it make sense.
So, well, yes, they have a box rate, but
do they?
Some of it's that the risk of pack searching isn't the same. So rip and shippers, by the way, Jeff, you can do that on Loop or on some of these platforms with baseball, but like you want to see the person opening the box in front of you.
Yeah.
Like with this, it's like a pack is a pack.
It doesn't
so
matter.
It's not like, oh, there's 3 autos for every 12 pack.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are like somewhat like when you're dealing with 36 packs in a booster box, like you kind of know like how many of X hits you'll get, but it just doesn't seem like the weighing concept with modern Pokemon isn't as big of a thing as you think, as it was with like vintage Pokemon. And it doesn't seem like the cat scanning risk is really that apparent. Like some of these cards that are really expensive, they might have print runs in excess of 50,000, if that makes sense. So yeah, the cat scanning, I don't know if that's really a big issue. All right. One of the things I'm going to share is the Umbreon card that I think Scott was trying to pull up. This is the English version. So this shows the PSA grades, the PSA pops. Yep. That's a PSA 10 pop of 14,417. It's probably more now. This I grabbed a few days ago. Last sold price was 2,483. So I've taken market cap. If you don't believe in market caps, you can call it market value, whatever, total market value for some of those grades. This doesn't consider the raw ones out there. And I compared it to what a lot of people would consider like the Holy Grail Pokemon card from the WotC era from 1999, the Charizard first edition base set English. And I didn't get all of the grades here, but I did get quite a few of the top ones. You'll see BGS 10 Pristine is in here. And I went down to like PSA 7, 69 million for Charizard. Again, this isn't perfect. There's more than one Charizard. You've got multiple languages, you've got shadowless, and then there's like a base set unlimited. So this doesn't tell like I wouldn't say 100% accurate story, but I still think it's kind of telling that this is just one hit card from Evolving Skies, a product that came out as part of the Sword and Shield era. That was the one that preceded Scarlet and Violet. And you're looking at a market cap that's comparable to the Holy Grail card. But if you did this exercise with sports, nothing would come close to that vintage sort of, with basketball, 86 Flair Jordan. With baseball, you're looking at like 52 Topps Mantle. It would not be that close from a market value perspective. But a lot of the Pokemon influencers out there don't really have much interest in vintage. And this isn't just because they're trying to prop up the ultra modern market. It's because they prefer the modern market because it's what they're used to. It's because it's more liquid. It's because it's what's in more demand. It's easier to build positions and to get out of positions from a sealed perspective and a singles perspective. They like the grading to flip aspect. So a lot of these content creators are also like, they also have their own shops. So it's hard for them to get inventory, vintage inventory. So how are they going to make a lot of money on that? Why focus on something where if there's 50,000 LGSs in the world, like there's not enough vintage to go around anyways. So not enough people can get it. So they focus on the modern, and I don't think they see this bull run really affecting vintage, or at least not the way it's going today.
So Phil, here's a question for you. We've given a lot of backstory on how this all operates. Why do sports card collectors need to care or know about this? In your eyes.
I think a lot of what we're seeing, and I know I'm jumping around a bit, but underlines to me that the sports card world as we know it from a modern perspective is broken. All of the hypotheses that we've talked about with products being too expensive to open, or there not being a lot of bang for your buck if you're opening it. Fanatics maybe printing too much, the dilution of sets, the hype kind of going from one product to the next. So by the time you get your cards in the mail that you got in a break that you don't want because the Aqua Lava Lamp wasn't the right card anyway. So even if you were a collector that bought into a break, you didn't get the right card. So it's not on you. You weren't just opening the packs to get a buzz. No, you're opening the packs to get like an actual decent hit of a player that you liked. But it wasn't the hit that people wanted or that you wanted, some contrived parallel. So now you're going to resell it. And now by the time you try to resell it, send it to your consignment shop, it's listed. Oh, well, now Bowman's Best has come out. Now Series 1 has come out. So nobody wants that anymore. So this is a completely different world. Even if you don't want to partake in the FOMO, which you probably shouldn't if you're not in already, it's interesting to observe some stuff that they're doing because it's working really, really well from a Pokemon perspective. Some of it's out of our control. The marketability of baseball is very different from Pokemon. And the generation it appeals to, as Scott mentioned, it's just much more vast. But Fanatics, I think, could learn a thing or two from this. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Would sports cards be better off if they followed the same approach where we get rid of numbered cards? We get rid of all these things because that's what's really driving this. If we had numbered cards, probably pretty similar. But the box like printed demand, like is that even possible in sports cards, or is this just something that can't be copied?
A few things, maybe fewer sets. I don't know. It's a completely different model. It really is. And I'm sure they've looked at it, they've studied it, and they're studying it now. And unfortunately for them, they can't buy Pokemon. So Pokemon's the most valuable IP in the world. And over the weekend, between me and my daughter opening packs, I introduced her to a movie, the TV show from 1999. Scott, you'd appreciate that. It was like after when you were born. I mean, that show just like really, if you didn't understand the Pokemon background, really kind of behind for its time. But I really enjoyed it because I had the Game Boy game and the cards and everything else kind of built off those two things. It's just a sticky relationship with Pokemon, and it's pretty cool for kids and for adult kids like us. What should sports card collectors do?
Should Chris and Jeff go buy Pokemon cards?
I saw a video. I'm sorry, I saw a video of people fighting at Costco over some sort of like jumbo Pokemon box that was available.
That's the Blooming Waters 151. That's this set right here. It's a big deal.
I'm going to Costco tomorrow. Should I like put a helmet on and get ready to really shake it up with some people and bring some of these boxes home?
I don't believe they get released in the States until like the 17th. No, I think February 7th. Is that when it is? There's a date or out earlier in Canada, but yes, if you ever see them, but it's hard. It's like, I can't tell you to buy them. We're going to resell them. They're a pain in the butt to ship. They're huge. You know, it's like if you're not a Pokemon guy, I wouldn't even recommend like buying it as like a arbitrage opportunity. That's where these are easy. That's easy to ship, right? Yeah. But yeah, if you see them and you're interested, it's fun. It's fun to open. It's a much better opening experience than sports cards, at least in my opinion. It's more fun. You have more hit rates, even if you don't get like anything like worth a ton of money. At least the cards look good and they're pretty. I don't know. It's just so different than sports cards, and they've really figured it out. And they supplement it with like when we say off-field performance for Pokemon cards. They have the video game, they have the TV show, they have the movies, they have the comics. Like they have all these things that we have on-field product of baseball. That's basically.
Jeff, it sounded like Scott was describing Stadium Club right there, right?
Was I?
Even if you don't get anything good, the cards still look nice.
They look nice. How much are you going to pay for something like that, Scott? Or how much is Chris looking at if he goes to Costco and get that?
Those boxes are like $50, which sounds like a lot, but those are going to be $100 on eBay. They're basically worth double, which is why people are going berserk because everybody wants to make a quick buck. But there's 6 packs in here. I paid $50 for this. And those blooming waters, there's going to be, I think, 10 or 12 packs, and they're going to be $50. So it's a very good price per pack, which is why you're seeing that.
Gotcha.
Jeff, do your kids do Pokemon cards?
They've opened some, and they buy some of those boxes similar to that one, that bigger thing that you had, where it comes with it comes with a large version of Pokemon card, like a jumbo, which they love that. But they don't play the game, and they don't really know anything about it. So they do have Pokemon binders, but I don't know. And since I don't know anything about it, it's hard to get into with them.
Yeah. Does this intrigue you, this conversation, at all as non-Pokemon collectors? Does this do anything for you?
Well, I like the idea of it. If it would prompt Topps and Fanatics to make fewer sets, I appreciate that. That's what I'm taking from this conversation.
What about you, Chris?
I mean, honestly, look, Pokemon to me, even listening to you guys, it's like, I'll put it this way. It's like a woman's menstrual cycle. I don't understand it at all. I have no interest in understanding it, and it will continue on as it is without me needing to understand it. That's pretty much where I am. I'm not gonna get into this.
Are you just, yeah.
It's just not for me. I know some things are for me, some things are not. I can tell right away. The cards might look nice, but I'm not going to get what's going on. I don't know. As a 45-year-old, it's probably I'm past the point of Pokemon.
Okay. It's interesting to see, because I know, Phil, you're pretty optimistic right now.
Sounds like Phil and his daughter had a great time opening packs, and that's incredible.
This is interesting here. So right now I'm showing, and I mean, no index is going to be perfect, but this is the Card Ladder Vintage Sports Index, and this is through the Boom, which you could argue the Boom started in 2019 for non-vintage stuff, but maybe even earlier. And then this goes out 4 years through the end of 2023. And what you can see here is where, as I mentioned earlier, like the bubble popped for ultra modern and modern baseball in March of 2021. You can see here that vintage actually started to take off around that time, and did pretty well throughout that 4-year period. So what I'm saying here is that, like, I don't know if I could foresee a situation where modern Pokemon gets as hot as it is, and it doesn't drip into vintage, and vintage doesn't go up a bit, because right now, over the last 12 months, a lot of vintage cards are flat. Some are up a little, like 20%, 30%. Some are down a little. And this is something that you could apply for maybe the sports card situation where, yeah, like collectors realized that they got ahead of their skis and they decided to move into something a little bit safer, proven commodity. You don't have current players. You don't have overprinted players and pop counts and stuff you have to worry about. You kind of go back to 50, 60 years. And it's a natural transition, even more in Pokemon, because you have a lot of the same characters. Not all of them, but 90%, right, Scott? Where in baseball, you're committing to players that you never really understood.
It's very unique, and they stick with you forever. They can't get in trouble, typically. It's just a different market. There's a joke that we can say there about a specific Pokemon or two with a Nintendo leak that just happened. They did some lore around them, and there's some weird stuff, but that's a different story for a different day. But yeah, so Pokemon cards, I've always loved them since I was a kid, and as an adult, it's rolling over, and it just doesn't feel like the brand's slowing down. And it's just, I don't know when it's going to blow up, if it's even a bubble right now, or if this is just normal, but everybody's going crazy for this sealed product, and it feels very reminiscent to 2020. And I don't think baseball cards will ever be this way, unfortunately, is my takeaway.
I'm not going to lie. After diving deep into the YouTube content of Pokemon and Discords and stuff like that, it made me want to start removing my eBay saved searches for sports cards. So let's leave it on a positive note.
Why is that, Phil?
Because I'm not as much of a collector as the rest of you guys, including the viewers here. And when I start to see dollar signs, I'm one of the idiots that props up that other market and probably gets it blown up in my face.
So you're more optimistic about the future of Pokemon than sports card singles?
Well, vintage Pokemon, yeah, not even a question. So even before the last month, like Scott, we've talked about this, how, and to preface this, my first $5,000 card pickup ever was a Pokemon card in 2019. So I've always viewed Pokemon cards more as investments, like 10 to 30 year holds, than baseball cards. than like Mike Trout, even when he was good and healthy. I just saw there being less risk. I saw there being more demand. I saw there being more of a long-term thesis around Pokemon, and it could still die. Like the brand could at some point die. Something happens to Nintendo and whatever. But I think a lot of us are betting that's very far out at this point, and it's just growing.
I'm more optimistic about Pokemon being around in 50 years than Major League Baseball in the same form. And the reason I say that is because it's been able to transcend generation after generation, which baseball has done, but not quite as well. And this year is going to be huge. They're releasing a new Switch, and then the new Switch, there's a new Pokemon game. And guess what? That's going to get people excited about cards. And Chris is stretching, so it's time to call this video a wrap. But my point is, it's tough, man, because it is such a child's thing, but it's really turning into an adult thing, and that's always kind of a sign that it is kind of a bubble. But at the same time, you might be missing out money if you don't hop on. It's tough.
I don't know, Scott. A great man once said that baseball has marked the time. America has been built and rebuilt, but baseball has marked the time.
Yeah, don't think I hate baseball. I think baseball will be fine. I'm just saying, like, worst case. This is worldwide. Whole countries love it, you know. But I'm optimistic. Baseball is actually swinging up in popularity right now. Do you guys know that? It's crushing compared to, like, NBA and stuff even.
I have seen people on Instagram trashing the NBA. I haven't watched. I don't follow basketball at all, but I've seen a lot of accounts.
Garbage right
I follow just trashing it.
2 thumbs down the way the NBA is played. And I don't know how they're going to fix it if I'm being transparent. But yeah, baseball, as long as they don't have a strike in 2027, then it's going to keep going. That's my concern, and that's going to kill all of our cards if that happens. But that's my concern.
There's always ifs with baseball, which is pretty annoying. It's like, wait, didn't we just get through a negotiation recently? It's like, oh wait, no, this is just kicking the can down
years. It always kind of takes away the child, like the innocence of the game all the time when they do this every single year, every 5 years.
Did you guys both say we're going to end on a positive note?
Well, to wrap this video up, takeaways. We just want to talk about the boom that's happening. It's a historic bull run, essentially. We don't know if it's going to be over soon, but it's been intriguing for Phil to jump head first in. And I've actually been doing it for a while. My mom has a great sealed Pokemon card collection that she's been doing for like 4 or 5 years. So she's doing real well. But
what's her end game?
She wants to sell it. I don't know. My mom likes to collect, and I've been telling her I'm much more optimistic in Pokemon cards and sports cards, even retail, because it's exactly the same as the hobby stuff. Like at the end of the day, right? Like it's different. It's easier to predict. You know, certain sets are going to be popular based off of what characters are in them, how they're built. Well, sports cards, it's not that way. Her end game, though, she wants to sell them and retire. I think she just wants some extra money, which is funny. So, all right. Well, thanks for watching, everybody. So if this wasn't your normal cup of tea, don't worry. Next week, we will not be a Pokemon card podcast, and we'll see you in the next video.